Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. Mom and I are grateful that you can join us for another week. And today
Sure.
we are both so excited. We have Christopher Macklin on with us today. We are going to talk about calming the mind. He is a powerful channeling medium and healer from England. He utilizes divine healing techniques cultivated to help people recover from all types of illness. He's able to heal many people simultaneously while rebalancing the body's energy field by clearing chakra points and cleansing the body's meridian field by removing blockages and negative energies. He was born as
Beautiful.
a highly aware psychic child in Chester, England, and Christopher was able to perceive energy fields, spirit activity, and multidimensional phenomena from a very young age. Today, Christopher works with thousands of clients a month internationally. He provides a full range of healing services that address a spectrum of physical, mental, and emotional issues and has developed protocols for challenging illnesses such as Lyme disease, Morgellons, Agent Orange, emotional disorders, chronic depression, bipolar, etc. He lives with his wife, Amanda, at
Wow.
their center in Branson, Missouri. The whole person and the whole life are treated. Therefore, relationships of family and loved ones can be repaired and restored. And I just want to let everybody know before we begin too. And Christopher, maybe you can talk about this a little bit at some point in the interview that you conduct free global healings twice a week and one-on-one sessions that people can get to you from your website. So we'll discuss all of that. So welcome, Christopher.
Yay. Is that me you're talking about?
It was.
Bless you. Yeah. Oh, gosh. You do so much in your life. It's amazing that, I remember when I started writing a book. When first got it, I started writing a book, and this lady wanted to sponsor me, and she gave me this big pamphlet, how to write a book. I thought, oh, no, because I've got severe dyslexia, of course. So writing is not my thing. So, but it's funny because I opened it up, and the first thing, very famous author said, look, the stuff that you know that you take for granted, like, yeah, I know it. It's somebody else's like, wow, come to Jesus moment, and I sat back for a minute. I thought, oh yeah, I see what you mean now, because when you know things, you just, oh yeah, of course, you think everyone knows it, and they don't, So that was amazing. It was an eye opener.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and it's always funny when you listen to somebody talk about the accomplishments that you have done in your lifetime. Kind of that was like really balled up into a little segment, but it's just like, oh, I have accomplished lots of things. So,
Yeah, I've done plenty of things in my life. Yeah, I've
yeah.
been targeted, gone bankrupt, and then opened the ministry here, came over to America. It's just amazing. You look back on the journey, you think, wow, this is nuts. But would I want to do it again? I don't think so. But I'll tell you what, for learning, when you get extreme uh, events happen in your life, it really makes you grow. It really does.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, it does.
definitely does. It's like stepping stones, right? To kind of push you forward and keep you moving and, kind of looking and shifting. Where do I rebalance and where do I start my next little bit of a journey here now?
Absolutely,
Right.
yeah. It's a journey, and to me, it's all about surrender, gratitude, taking your power back. I don't believe in gurus. I think you are your own guru. I just feel like a facilitator to help people, release the emotion, the trauma, so they can actually take their power back and feel amazing. Then they can step out in the world and do amazing things, whatever their gift is. And I think that's really important. Everyone's a guru in their own right.
Yes.
True. That's true.
Exactly. And I think that when we know that and we have teachers though, like right, we all need teachers and someone that will even just open our eyes to be able to say, maybe look at this or maybe, calm down or maybe, don't be so afraid or whatever it is that we need. We need teachers like such as yourself and other great teachers that are out there that show us the way.
Yes.
Yeah, and then once you get there, you get downloads, you just know information, and then things move on. It's just incredible. Yeah, I've really interested. I've really enjoyed my life. I wouldn't want to do it again, but I've enjoyed it. Because some of the places sometimes you don't know. When I went bankrupt in 2007, I remember sitting in the south of England. in a car because I was half living out of a car for a few years because, semi-homeless. I tried to phone my brother up that, I didn't have any money for food and, oh, I'm in a meeting. He was at Shell, oil and things like this. And I'll phone you back. And, a month later, he didn't phone me back. And I thought, wow, and I kind of bawled my eyes out. And then it was like the lowest point. And then I turned around and I realized that your starseed family or your soul family, wherever they are on off planet, if you're a starseed, you'll know because, you're a massive empath. You don't fit in this planet, you don't have many friends because they all think you're a complete nutter whacker. My father said to me one day, he says, I think you're absolutely barking mad. I said, Dad, that's the best compliment you've ever given to me. So he goes, what? But it depends on your perspective. I think I'm normal and everyone else is crazy, but it's what it is.
Well,
But yeah, and it helps you evolve. That lowest point, turn it around. And I realized my Starseed family, when I started contacting them, it took me a while to get in contact with them. But when they opened the channel, they were there 24/7. And I've always got comfort from them. If you want to know something, they're there. I just ask one of them Melchizedek beings and you get the answer. With human wise, it's very difficult. So it's been interesting.
Right.
yeah. And so how did you sort of start opening yourself up to your starseed family? Was it because you were at a low point and you were kind of like, oh, somebody's help me?
Well, I knew when I was very young, and I was targeted as well. I mean, 2 days after I was born, I had 8 strokes. At the age of 4, I burnt my back so badly I was in hospital for a year. And then, then I realized that I could see things. And I was about 4, I was lying in bed and I looked over. There's a big, like, reptilian thing in the corner of the room. Dad, there's a dinosaur thing in the corner of the room. And he comes running up. What is it? What is it? It's there. Where? Couldn't see it. Now, I realized at the age of 4 even that, they can't see it. That's weird, So it's just a bad dream. Go back to sleep. It's not it's still there, but never mind. So as soon as he left, somewhere just it just came to me, and I just got all my mind to say, "Get out of my room." The thing went. I thought, "Wow, that worked." And from then on, when I got visitations, I could manage them better. I used to see craft in the sky and said, Dad, there's a flying saucer in the sky, and it was in a different dimension, but I could see them. And of course, you've got a good imagination, darling, and I think you just leave it go. You don't tell people about it until later on. So anyway, I got a degree, got a master's, doing flight control systems, working for corporate systems and Philips, consumer electronics, and everything else. And then, I just had this great idea. Let's build some apartments, in 2000. So I got the money, millions of pounds, 176 apartments in Manchester, having bought houses and different things. And the bank phoned me up one day in 2007. They said, well, these apartments you're building, they're now worth a fraction, about a third of what they were before. We want our money back in 14 days. What?
Whoa.
And I was going, well, I've got £10. Would that help? It was like $12. And they didn't. Anyway, they took us bankrupt, marriage split up. And yeah, I ended up, semi-homeless, living out of a
Wow.
car, sponsored to go to India, sponsored all over the place, um, all through Europe. And, it really taught me a lot, about stuff. You don't need it, I'm not bothered about stuff because I went 21 days and 10 days without food. And I think when you've
Whoa.
experienced that, even having a plate of food on the table, I thank God every day. Like, thank you, God, for the blessing of this food because a lot of people don't have it, including myself at certain times in my life. So it taught me a lot about stuff. I mean, I know we need stuff, got thousands of dollars worth of stuff with the ministry to just make this happen. But if I didn't have the ministry, I don't need it, to me, it's just a simple life. You've got food on the table, a car, and a house. You've got everything, you really
You
have.
do.
Mhm.
You truly do.
Yeah. So, it taught me about gratitude. And I think one of the things that really turned me around is really realizing that gratitude is a way of life. It's a feeling. It's like to me, it goes with surrender. You're surrendered, God's got your back. You're just grateful for everything. It's not like having a gratitude stone, and the secret is, well, get your gratitude stone. God, you got 5 minutes. So I'm grateful for my wife, my car, we're done. it doesn't work like that. It truly is a way of life, and I've learned that if nothing else. So, it's amazing.
It
But in
is so,
2000s,
sorry.
in, sorry, bless you, in 2007, I went to Belize. It was interesting. I went to a Mayan temple called Chiantovich. It's in San Ignacio. Very powerful structure. And it's funny because I got on top of it and I was just getting these visions like as you pass life. And I went back to the hotel and they literally, in my room, they created like this 3D television thing. And I was just watching it and they showed me my past lives and different things. And I was just like watching it in awe. I thought, wow, it's amazing. And from there, I realized what I was connected to and started meditating with the Kizlet beings. It took a while because one thing I learned as well is that your starseed soul family, I'm not talking about if you say where am I from, it's too big a word. If you say where's my soul from, then you can find your starseed family. And they took a while to connect because I learned that they don't waste their time with people who aren't committed. So, you meditate, where are they? Oh, they're not here. You do it for a week, still not here. Do it for like 3 weeks, still not here. I think it took about 6 to 8 weeks for them to really connect. And when they do, everything changes. And so, yeah, it's been quite a journey. But I think it's really important. One thing they did tell me is do not use other people's modalities. We're going to teach you how the Melchizedek beings work, with the healing. And that's why I spent like 4 years, 4 to 6 hours a day in meditation, understanding cause and effect of everything, really. Morgellons, cancers, Lyme disease, Agent Orange, cystic fibrosis, multiple sclerosis, all these things. Because I don't feel as though you can heal it unless you really understand what it's doing and how it works in the body. So
Mhm.
it's been an interesting journey.
It sounds like an interesting journey. And I agree with you on the gratitude thing. I remember even as a young kid, grew up with a single mom and she worked very hard, but money wasn't super fluent. And I remember, a lot of my friends did come from affluent families and would, be say, oh, I feel so bad, blah, blah. And I'm like, why? Why do you feel bad for me? I'm like, I have a roof over our head. I have a warm bed to sleep in. We have food on the table, and I have a mother that loves me and my brother like super mad crazy. I have the best life ever. Like
You've got everything.
I
Yeah,
so I didn't even realize now how gratitude became such a part of my life at such a young age. And, kind of just that's been my journey too, of being very grateful all the time for all the things that we have. And, even some of the bad situations we end up in, I think we end up in these bad situations to teach us even more gratitude about, how much do we really actually have to be grateful for, right?
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we even eat. It's funny because one of the English dishes is like beans on toast, baked beans. It's got
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
meat in it. It's just baked beans on toast with a bit of cheese on. And I used to love that. And we used to have that quite often because, again, when he was like not fluent, and so, sometimes you just used to have that for dinner and that's okay. It's got protein in it. So I was always the same, really grateful for food.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
we've had that. We've had beef and toast.
Beans
Absolutely.
on toast. I
Yeah.
did it in our house, and Mandy goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm making beans on toast." So, well, there's nothing wrong with it. Bit of cheese on it,
Yeah.
beautiful. So,
Uh,
Great.
That's amazing. Well, and I love how you talk about the healing too, with recognizing what is wrong with our bodies. Can you talk a little bit about that, like with your healing and kind of recognizing if you have a disease or something like that, how that correlates?
oh yeah, I mean, most things I think are caused by emotion. Of course, things like Lyme disease is gain of function. Well, it starts off with pathogens like Epstein-Barr gain of function from helicobacterial structures. So you got Epstein-Barr, you got cerebellar zoster, which is chickenpox, all manufactured over the last 50 years. Herpes simplex, all these things. And then from them, they took them a level up and they made stealth pathogens which replicate exponentially in the body. So they're very destructive, and the neurotoxins, you have to understand the co-infection neurotoxins. But what's interesting is that I think there's only three things. You can get sick because of contaminants like toxins, and there's plenty of them around and transmissional frequencies. You can get sick mainly, things like cancer, I think, are caused primarily by emotion because emotion bleeds into the body like the breast or the womb or somewhere. And if you've got pathogens like Epstein-Barr, a lot of people do, it's a herpes strain, but you can get it from a drinking cup. Then low vibration allows these things to replicate and, it makes the cells replicate, turn into tumors. But stealth pathogens are destructive. I think the worst disease on this planet is called Morgellons. Have you ever heard of that? I don't know whether you heard of it.
I haven't.
Morgellons disease. What it is nanotechnology, and it's bound. So it's 10 to the minus 9 particles, which tend to be graphene or carbon, and they bind it with things like plastics, silicates, and all sorts of horrible things like, well, plant material. And what happens is in the body, it grows through the body, it grows through your tissue. And because it's bound with Borrelia, the stealth pathogen of Lyme disease, it's biologically alive. So, when it grows, it's crazy stuff. You get plastic coming out your skin and different horrible things. So I've dealt a lot with that as well. So yeah, but realizing how it works. I worked with a world-leading industrial toxicologist, Dr. Hildy. She's now retired but she had court cases against all the manufacturers or the developers of this, and it's kind of off-planet technology from the grey reticula. So yeah, that's a tough disease to deal with. So
I would think.
but
So,
yeah, but
sorry. So do you deal with some of that when you do your global healing sessions, or like are your global healing session like is that more of a one-on-one and your global healing is more about like the earth or
no, the general healing. It's like a general healing. So I go through most things, like if you've got bronchial issues, COPD. I work on blood sugar. I work on the intestines. So many people have intestinal issues at the moment, and that's because of emotion. Emotion bleeds down. But there's also another element called entities. So, if you have an entity attachment, a lot of people do when they're sick. For example, what entities do we have? Anunnaki draconian. They kind of sit in the abdomen, so it bloats the abdomen, hang on the shoulders and neck, so your shoulders and neck are always tight, tap in the lower back, so it damages over a period of time the L4, L5 disc. And it sends you negative thoughts. Like if you go out to work, oh, no one likes you. You get these thoughts like, no one likes you. Oh, why are you here? The boss is going to fight. You get all these horrible thoughts. And they do that 24/7, and people turn it into their thought, but it's always a you thought. So one of the first things I always do is remove the entities. You've got Luciferians, you've got state beings, you've got archons. All these things are there to actually try and suppress you, but they're in a different dimension, so people can't see them. So that's an important point as well. But we deal with the kidneys, the liver, thyroid, pituitary, pineal. We deal with the spine. A lot of people have spinal issues, of course, at the moment because of emotion. Not only if you've got an empty attachment, it's going to damage the L4-5 disc. But even so, on top of that, you've got load of emotion. Of course, all your muscles tighten in your lower back and your neck, and it pulls the spine out. So your gate's off. So then you start getting hip issues and aching and things like this. So we deal with all that, detox the body. Obviously, toxins and heavy metals are rife in the food and the water, in the air, the chemtrails and things. So there's so many things, you look back, you think, this place is nuts. But it's
why do we
crazy. I
choose
love it.
here? Why do you
Yeah,
choose
I know.
here?
Well, I always tell people, look, I mean, if you're a star seed, you opted to come here. So, God said, look, I want volunteers. You go, yeah, I'll do it. And I say, okay, just have a quick look at planet. Yeah, we can do it, no problem, because you're sipping champagne with God. And then when you get down here, the first thing that happens, come through the vaginal open, there's the IRS in the corner. Welcome to Mother Earth. Here's your invoice. And then it goes downhill from that. But but it is enslaved. It's funny when you look at all the instruments they've put in place to get people in fear. I get so many clients, they retire and this, yeah, but I was ashamed of myself today because this afternoon I should have done this, this, and this, and I didn't do anything. I said, well, I just had a nap. I said, what's wrong with that? You've got all the time in the world. And I think I think because of the slave system and because of lack of, because the dollar bill has now lost all its value, of course, since the 70s, it's lost 97% of its value. So you need a lot of dollar bills to pay for stuff. So you have to work harder, two jobs, and so many people are working two or three jobs, and it's not the way it's meant to be. So I'm
No.
really hoping things change around. It is changing for sure.
Yeah. It would be nice to see that because I think that's what a lot of that puts so much stress on people too, is right because we have these shoulds or what we would class as what I should be doing, sort of like you're talking about with
Yeah,
kids,
should
right?
it?
Yeah.
Have, raked the garden and I should have done that. Well, why shouldn't you just should have had a nap because that's what I wanted to do, right? But I think we box ourselves in so much with that kind of stuff that, and then that just creates stress in the body as well, right? So, I
Oh
mean,
yeah, I mean, I think live in this world. I mean, I've detached from the matrix. I don't worry about it. Just to give you, this is an interesting point. I'm going to share this with you. So, in 2000, I went for a reading with this lady. She was about 84, and she was just outside Liverpool in England. So I turned up and walked in and sat down. She goes, right, let's start the reading. Okay, wrote some things down. Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. She said, well, you're going to get remarried. Okay. Uh, you're going to move to America. Oh, okay. And you're going to work for God doing healings and live off donations. And at that time, I was doing the flight control system. I thought, how are you going to make money out of doing healings? I don't understand it, but okay, that's fine. And what I've learned is that, if you find, that burning passion, like, oh God, I love doing. And I used to detest, I didn't like software systems. People said, God, your job must be really interesting. Flight control systems and everything else, lots of mathematics. I remember being at work looking around and thinking, there's got to be more than this. This is just not exciting me at all, and I had piles of money doing it, but that wasn't the point. And I think now I love what I do, but I've always taught people, where passion, where love flows, the energy comes back to you in the form of money or stuff, whatever it is. And I'm testament to that. When I first got here, I had absolutely nothing, and today we work on about, I would say, 3,000 people a week ish. We've got the general groups, we've got specialized groups where we have up to 20 people on, and then we get one-to-ones. We also do a lot of work with meditations, we've got those available and a lot of other things as well. We also, what's interesting is do a ceremony once every 120 days. And we get as many people on because one of the problems of this planet is that the cabal, deep state, whatever you want to call them, they do these satanic ceremonies to, destroy people's lives, whatever. So we counter it by calling them all out and basically do a ceremony where we call them out, like Big Farm, Big Tech, whatever it is, and then we bring them before God for justice and release them to God with unconditional love and forgiveness. That means once they're called out, and then we reinstate that every day for 120 days. That's just explaining it simply. But I think that things like that really help, especially if you get 300 or 400, 500 people online and they're all saying it together. The power in that is incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
yeah, that is a powerful thing, and I think that's why there's all these, world prayer groups and things like that, because I truly believe that when we gather in love like that and as one mind, kind of, that we're really putting that power out towards people, and I think that's just such a beautiful thing.
Oh
Hmm.
yeah, it's like manifestation. If you, I used to teach well, I taught about, I used to get people to try and get in the space with manifestation, which goes back to gratitude, which goes back to surrender, knowing God's got your back. I remember when I first got here, I had $1,000 in the ministry and I needed to buy a projector. And I thought, oh God, well, I've only got $1,000. What am I going to do? Hang on, let's stop. Sorry, universe, I'm being third dimensional. I'm just going to buy it. And I said, God, this is your projector. And, I'm going to bless the ministry with the projector. Bought it. You know what? Within 2 days from nowhere, the money was back in the bank. I said, huh? It's amazing. And we always have enough, even in these days, we always do okay. I'm not a multimillionaire, don't want to be. But if you got, again, going back to the gratitude, if you've got a couple of cars, the house, food on the table, and you can go out now and again, I think you've got everything.
Yeah, I would
That
agree.
that's so true, and it's interesting how many people come to your aid too when you're going through bad times. You know, people, there are people out there that come to your aid and help you through the situation, and you're so grateful for just there you are, right? Like, here I am. I'm going to help with that, even if it's lawnmower to cut your lawn, sort of
Oh
thing.
yeah.
It's just such a gift, and yeah, it's wonderful that we have that around us, especially when we believe in spirit, how spirit helps us so much. And
Oh,
we
all
may
the
be,
time,
yeah,
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 24/7. I mean, I've also taught people because nowadays there's a lot of passive aggressiveness, narcissism, people with
Oh,
massive
yeah.
trauma. And I think, in our private life, because I do so much work with people with mental illness and, schizophrenic and depression, I mean, a lot of depression
yeah,
is actually caused by these entities because, of course, if you're getting words in your head like you're useless, you're pathetic, you start to, your vibration drops. And so, but,
it's
yeah, I
true.
think I think I always encourage people that what you got to do is be in a sacred space, and so I only allow people in our sacred space who we know who don't suck the life out of you. It's not that I judge people; it's just I think you have to set boundaries where if someone's
Yeah,
berating you, my father's an example. He said when I got sponsored to do a degree, he said you're too thick to get a degree. Ooh. So I got one of those. You're too thick to get a master's. I got one of those as well. I did the exact opposite, and I thank him for being a crabby old thing because and he's 91 now, believe it or not. But we had an epiphany couple of years ago where I actually called him out on it, and like, oh my God, I never realised. And he got depressed and then came out of it, and now he's being so loving. But I think he helped me a lot in those days because he didn't put, he didn't take no prisoners. You're too thick, And it's not that I'm thick; it's just got dyslexia. My brain works differently. But of course, in England, it was all about spelling.
Mm.
So, of course, what happens last thing on Friday at school? We have a spelling test. Guess who's last to leave the school? That would be me. Every week, last to leave the school. It was funny, but yeah. So, but it was a good education. But I think to navigate this world, I don't know about you guys. I mean, I look at it sometimes outside and think, wow, this place is nuts. I don't recognize it from even 10, 20 years ago. And so, but I think to navigate it, you just got to be in your space. Look for great food, look for things to do that are fun, every single day. Like we've got 40 acres here and we built the house in the middle of the trees and we just go wandering in the trees and we sit out on the deck and just watch the birds. We've got bird feeders. The most simple things in life can be the best.
Yeah.
I think we've all got too busy,
sometimes.
buying stuff online and messing about, and you don't need all that stuff. It's just, everything's right here on this planet if you start enjoying it.
I agree. And like
That
one of my favorite things, especially in the summer, is camping because you're out, you're in nature. I can just like go off and meditate or read my book or just something to calm my mind because other than that, working in the corporate world, your brain is constantly going. It's like I just need to close down just a tiny little bit here.
Oh yeah. Well, I could never go back to court. I mean, I had top jobs and, with British Aerospace, construction aeronautica's in Spain, all over the place, Marconi, all these places, GE in England, not the same. I don't think it's the same GE. I think that there's a British version, then there's obviously US version, but work for all these companies developing software, but I don't think I could ever do that again. I think I keep
yeah.
asking God, when can I retire? And God says, well, when you croak. I say, okay. so,
But
so I've
that's
got a while to go yet, I hope.
but
It's
that's
funny.
because you're on a mission to teach people, right? And to bring that
Oh,
love
yeah.
to people. So
Well,
that's
that's the
great.
thing.
Yeah.
It's not a job, it's a way of life, And like I say, we work on people every day, 5 days a week, and we do the Saturday morning group, So the general healing is Thursday night, 5 p.m. Central Time, and Saturday, 11 a.m. Central Time. And I love doing it because people are so interactive, It's just great. So,
That,
yeah.
that
So,
is nice. So you
but
do that online as well then?
yeah, yeah, it's only online. We do it I do it through StreamYard. I stream it to Facebook, Rumble, uh, Instagram, what's the other one? Twitter. And then we also have it on Zoom as well. So I've got like two computers running. So we do it wake and register and, be on Zoom. So yeah, I love it. I think it's
Yeah,
great.
Well, that is
But it
wonderful.
also,
it is great.
I think it also provides community. On Friday afternoon, 3 p.m. Central Time, we have what they call Heart Sharing Circle, where we just really run the Zoom and people can come on and share things. We monitor it a little bit to make sure no one's grabbing the space. And because along the way, I've heard so many people say this journey is so lonely. Some people are just completely on their own. And,
Yeah.
so we wanted to try and get something where people could just come along and share a meditation or share their experience of the week or something.
Mm.
But I don't know, you guys find that, we don't have many friends because I think people think we're nuts around here. So,
I
which is
appreciate
okay.
that.
I love it.
Well, that was one thing I always thought was a good thing about myself was that I was different and weird and not like everybody else. So I always thought this is a great part of me that I'm this way, and I still
Yeah,
do.
we're doing
You
it.
find your soul tribe, right? You find the people that you click with and that push you forward and help you along your journey and can celebrate you in the ways that sometimes even not my mom, but obviously, but sometimes some of my other family is like, hmm.
Well,
And I just
Yeah,
smile and say, this is
yeah.
who I
Oh, never
am.
mind.
Yeah.
I've
I always
I
remember going
find
out
that
with a couple because we're in the Bible Belt a lot, and I remember going out with a couple and they were Southern Baptists. So, what's the thing they always ask you? So, what do you do for a living? I'm like, oh no.
there we
So,
go.
well, I do healing. Do you? Is it in the name of the Lord? I said, well, kind of. And then I thought, let's just tell you how it works. So, well, we use portals, we do this, and we send energy, and we remove entities, do psychosurgery. Da, da, da. You can see them like glaze over with the fluoride stare, going, "What? What's this guy on about?" Guess what? We never went out with them again. I think I think for them once was enough. But I love Jesus' teaching. I'm not a Christian, but I love Jesus' teachings. I love Buddha's teachings. There's many ascended masters who come down to try and teach us to stop judging and be in the God space, get Christ consciousness, and of course, it's been manipulated. So,
Mhm.
but I think, yeah, I think mental health wise, I mean, a lot of people are, especially now, are suffering from anxiety, ADD, PTSD, depression, and also, of course, OCD, and then you've got addictions as well. And I think, if people haven't done the work on themselves to get rid of all the trauma and everything else, then they look somewhere else, to try and find some, gratification or joy. And so they get addicted to either alcohol or porn or something. And I'm seeing a lot of that. And it's really sad because to me, when you get in the God space, it's the most powerful thing. It's just like, wow, the God energy, being in that space, it just takes a while to get there, I think, because you've got to do work on yourself and you've got to work on the traumas and everything else. So, yeah, I think, but also working on the neurochemical balance, because of course, emotion affects the adrenals, which, serotonin, one of the neurochemicals, and GABA, dopamine, melatonin is glands in the brain, but they're all affected by emotion. So if it goes off balance, you get all these third dimensional conditions. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
So,
it is.
do you want to talk about calming the mind for a minute? Just because we said we were
Yeah, I
going.
think so. Calming the mind. I think in this world, I think if people really want to calm the mind, you've got to change the way you're working. Like if you go into a job, how many people do you hear? Well, hate my job, don't want to go there. God, I wish I could be off sick today. Or if it's that bad, it's not worth it. The money's not worth it. Your life is so precious. So I always encourage them, start either do it in phases where you look for your passion, and everyone has a God gift, in my belief. Everyone. It's just that
Yeah,
sometimes people don't realize it. And so I think if you can find that God gift, you don't even have to try. It's just there. For example, is art my gift? Absolutely not. If I went to a gallery with my art, they say, get out and never come back because I can't pay for toffee. But everyone's got their gift, people writing, people with drawing, people with just growing plants, whatever it is. And if you start on that gift, you can always you can always do something with it where you can, like for example, growing plants, you could go to farmers markets, sell your produce. There's so many things you can do. And I just think people don't have that faith to take that leap. And I think God did it for me. When I went bankrupt, it was almost like there was a 6x8 over the heads. And suddenly you're there, I think, wow, I've got no money for food. I didn't have any debt. So all the anxiety went, but I still didn't have that much money for food. And so, I had to be very careful. And it taught me so much. But I think calming the mind is really doing that absolute passion, burning passion gift. And, having the faith to be able to step out, either do it, start doing it, and then, reduce your job or leave your job, once you've got it set up, or take the leap of faith and do it straight away. Because by goodness, I'm living proof that it does work. It really does.
I would agree with that 100%. I know one time when it was quite a few years ago, and my previous husband and I were separating, and mom was living out west, and I said, I'm moving out west. Let's sell the house and move out there anyways. We didn't have jobs to go to, and we were taking our kids, so people thought we were like had lost our minds. They're like, what are you going to do for jobs? I'm like, something will show up. I know it will. And we got out there and everything was fine, right? So, I mean, exactly that. Like, you just have to sometimes have that trust of faith that you're just like, I'm jumping and I know God's going to, put out this net for me to save me and help me along my journey, bounce me up from the net.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it does work. I mean, I'm living proof of it. Like that reading 20 years ago, it's all come true. And, in my corporate days, like, what? You can live off donations, you know, work on healing for a living? Are you kidding? Because a lot of people don't take it seriously, I think. But if you really focus on, I see a lot of people that just go to the odd like expo thing where they pay $100 and little expos and do something and I think, you've got to really put the effort. When I got here, we spent over probably 3 or 4, 5 years, but built it up, got to bigger expos, and until we were going to the ones where it cost several $1,000s to run, to go to the expo. It's $1,700 for to speak. It's $2,500 for an advert. All these things like Conscious Life Expo. And I spent that year, we spent $110,000 just trekking around America, going to different like unity
Wow.
churches, different spiritual centers, all the expos, the big ones. And you have to put the effort in. Because I remember when I first opened the office in Branson, what did they say? Build it, they'll come. So I sat there for like a couple of months. Where are they? And I didn't think to ask, and then eventually I said, okay, God, this is not funny. I asked the kids that being, what's happening? They said, it's within. Take it out there. Oh, okay. So we did. And it all changed. And now it's got its own momentum. And we do go on podcasts and things like this, but I don't need to go to those expos anymore. We just do podcasts and, word of mouth. Once it's got a momentum, it's like rolling the ball up the hill. When it starts turning over, then off it goes. And it never loses the momentum. I think as long as you keep
Yeah,
getting out there, I think it's really important.
it
Yeah.
is.
And we've got 8 staff as well, so we have to feed them. Yeah, it's not, I mean, it's not IBM, but it's not a small enterprise to me anyway. So we've got to look after all the staff as well. And, we've got people doing different jobs, social media. We've got 2 girls in the office. We've got Donna, who's been in contact with us. She does the PR stuff. And there's Mandy and myself. And there's Tuia she actually does ghostwriting.
Oh,
And to get over that book thing, I tried everything, honestly. I thought, right, okay, I'll just type on the computer. Nothing was coming. I thought, oh no. So I got Dragon Naturally Speaking, so I set that up and I said, okay, started talking into it. And I got to Zeta Gray and it said, have a nice day. It wasn't recognizing the words. So I read it back, I think this doesn't make sense. That's not working. So eventually I realized I need a ghostwriter, where I've got the information. You can blurt it out, like blah, 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 and she gets it and then she starts to kind of assemble it in some sort of order that people can understand. And she's done a great job, bless her. So, that's been a big help. So, I've written the books as my information, but obviously she's the interface between myself and the outside world, which I think is great. and she's
Oh
got a
yeah.
real talent for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think we sometimes need that, right? Because we have the creativity or whatever, we just can't put it into motion. I know definitely doing this with the podcast, I've learned a lot creatively with different, programs on the computer and stuff that I didn't know when we started. And, like I was saying to mom the other day, like looking back to where we started 3 years ago to where we are today, it's a huge difference in what we're doing. So,
Oh
but
yeah, and it keeps evolving. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
It helps though. Kim's amazing. Kimmy just catches on to it and does it. And I don't know what to do with her. She just has that talent, and I'm grateful.
Well, I
Very
think you
grateful.
do, and I think and there's so many creative programs now. But again, because I just wanted to do the healing, and that's another thing that people make a mistake on is we spend I've got an accountant who does all the accounts. We spend probably $24,000 a year, and I pay him to count the beans. I'm not interested, because we have to fill in 990, which is a non-for-profit thing. It's 120 pages long for the IRS. Do I want to do it? Now let me see. Oh, that'll be a nope. Do I want to reconcile accounts? That'll be a nope. So I don't do anything. They do the whole thing. And it means that I can just focus on what I'm doing and you're not stressed. It's like doing the computers. Can I fix the computer? Of course I can. But again, the IT guy comes in. If we get a problem with Windows and it might take me like 5, 6 hours to figure it out. Why don't I just do the healings and pay him to fix it? Because he can fix it in like half an hour because he's seen that problem with Windows at another car dealership or somewhere. So, I think you're better off actually just paying the money out and feeding other families as well. And it just comes back anyway. So that's
Yeah.
one of the things I
Yeah.
always focus, with a spiritual business, and you just got to focus on what you're good at. Don't
Mm,
focus on all the IT and accounting. Who likes accounting? Probably nobody. But the accountants are good at it. So
yeah.
I'm so grateful for them that we can pay them to do all that. So I could just focus on the healings. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's made a huge difference.
Yeah. Well, and it comes around, like you said, full circle, right? We're helping other people and we get that help back for ourselves. And I think it's a wonderful thing. And I think sometimes we spread ourselves too thin, right? Because like for yourself, like you're trying to do the healing, and if you're concentrating on the healing plus all these other things that are maybe better suited to somebody else in their niche, then you're taking away from your what you can offer the world. And
Your gift. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
shortchanging people, and that's why I just do the healings. Obviously, I do the meditations. We do podcasts as well. That's enough for anybody, because we do the healings, and over the weekend we have to come on podcasts and do different things at night, and I love it. But of course, if you're going to then start messing with computers and things, and it's going to frustrate you, I think you're just better off walking away from it and letting somebody else do it, and focusing on your
Yeah.
gift. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
It's amazing.
absolutely.
True.
So, can you talk a little bit about, like, I know you talked a little bit about your meditation group. So, how do people find these meditation groups that they can go to through you?
Well, if you go on the website, the general, this general healing group, the global healing group that's twice a week. If you go onto the Global Enlightenment Project, it's there. You can register for it, if you want to be on Zoom, or you can just go to Facebook, Global Enlightenment Project, or Rumble, Global Enlightenment Project, or Twitter. But if you want to actually be part of it, and it's like I say, it's tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Central Time and Saturday 11 a.m. Central Time. And if you want one-to-ones, I mean, if people are chronically ill, for example, if you've got MS or you've got multiple sclerosis or what's it called, Parkinson's, that's normally caused by Lyme disease. And of course, they always say it's autoimmune disorder, but they're not checking for the right things. And if you have Lyme disease, the neurotoxins start damaging the brain, and it can affect you. You can also get muscular dystrophy with it because the co-infections like Epstein-Barr or Babesia-Bartonella can get in the muscles and the immune attacks it. And when you go to the doctor, says, "Oh yeah, it's autoimmune disorder." Well, nobody's immune, will attack your body unless there's something in the body it doesn't like. So you've got to find that, and normally it's pathogen type infection. So I think, yeah, it's very interesting. But yeah, if anyone wants help, come to that. And like I say, we cover everything. We cover osteoporosis, parathyroid. If emotion bleeds into the parathyroid, what happens is then you start to leach calcium out your bones. So you get osteopenia, gets worse osteoporosis. So we have a very interesting energy, very thick energy to paste it on the actual bones, and it's recreated the bone density. I've had people go back with DEXA scan and think, wow, it's gone back to normal. But you've got to work on the
Wow.
parathyroid to stop it from leaching. And of course, it gets in the bloodstream. You can get things like kidney stones. You can get arterial blockages because the calcium deposits like a little scrubby inside the artery along come fat cells and build up. Can get on the heart valve called heart valve stenosis or on the flap. And so if it's on the flap, the flaps don't close properly, you get spurt back. So the heart has to work harder to maintain the blood pressure. So there's so many different things we work on. Yeah, teeth. I always call the teeth
Well,
BG time because because the BGs the 70 when they smile, they always have these white teeth. You had to put your shades on, like whoa. So, but yeah, we work on the teeth, the gums, TMJ, lungs, thymus and spleen, immune system, the main parts. Um, Also things like arthritis. That's pretty rife, and we break that down. It takes a while because if you break it down too quickly, it'll get in the bloodstream, overload the kidneys, so you get kidney stones.
well,
What else? Yeah, lymphatic. We clear the lymphatic out. So we do a lot of things in an hour, but I think things like Lyme disease and Morgellons and all these things are something that we do have a protocol for, where we actually split it out using timeline splitting. We split your timeline in two, and you're on a path of divine alignment, complete wellness, where all the particles or the stealth pathogens are out your body. On the other timeline, we separate all those out and lock them on the timeline sun. And after about 10 weeks, we then invoke a DNA change where the Melchizedek beings go in the first cell where life began and sacral point, they repair all the chromosomes, connect all the helix together, reset the DNA of that cell back to the blueprint in the Akashic records, then the cells around it. So I did that in 2009. This is an interesting story. So before that, my blood type was O negative because DNA, RNA is all connected, immune system. So anyway, I didn't think about it. Last year, I was talking on podcasts about the Vatican, and so they hit me with this low frequency weapon, and they got my aortic valve and melted two cusps together, and I got really sick real quick. In fact, to the point of dying. So because I was born as a Melchizedek being, I was spliced here at birth. I've got 84% Melchizedek DNA. My heart's a big, like a size of a volleyball. It's supposed to be the size of a grapefruit, but the surgeon going, "Oh my God, your heart's huge." And he thought it was heart failure. And then he realized that your heart valve is bigger than the ones on the shelf. So he couldn't do TAVR. He had to open my chest up and replace it. So we got it replaced because I was probably about 4 to 6 weeks from passing away. And so that was last October. Anyway, they said, my platelets, my blood doesn't clot. So they said, oh, we're going to have to use some blood. I said, oh, it's O negative. And he goes, oh, well, we're going to have to test it. He comes back. He goes, no, it's not. It's A negative. Okay, well, so my blood type changed from the DNA change, so it shows it works. It's amazing.
Wow, that is
yeah,
amazing.
well,
But
Well, that was a crazy time. I thought I was going to die, and I talked to the kids that beings. I said, "Can we fix this heart valve quick enough?" They said, "No, you need to go and get it replaced. We'll work on the scar tissue." So yeah, that happened last October. That was fun. Not
God,
so.
no, I wouldn't think so. But I think it's amazing, that you're sharing this with people and with us because it just goes to show, right? There is so much of that out there. And I mean, a lot of it, I think, is does come down to belief as well, right? Because you need to
yeah,
believe in this healing to incorporate it into your life, I feel like.
Oh yeah, and I think once you've done it for, I mean, I came here 2010. I become an American citizen 2017. So since 2010, I've been doing the healings, and I think when you do so many, you get the confidence, so it works. You know what I mean? If it didn't work, I wouldn't even, I'd be like, and I think for a lot of people, they use other people's modalities, and I don't think it works that effectively. For example, Reiki, just give an example. I'm not putting Reiki down at all, but it's symbology. It focuses the energy in this third dimensional world into your body. But look at what's happened to the energy. It's like dipped, the vibration, the energy now is pretty crazy. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I feel the collective. Some days it feels like the Twilight Zone, as though something's going to jump, like da 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 da. What's happened? And then sometimes it feels like complete despair. I go, wow, that's. And I always want to tell my clients because they think it's them, and it's not. It's the collective energy. And then on
Right.
top of that, of course, now you've got the solar storms where people are getting terrible intestinal issues. I don't know about you guys, but half the time I don't know what to eat at night because I don't feel like anything. So
Mhm.
what do I
Yeah.
eat? Do we have a steak now? I don't want that. And eventually it could be just bacon and egg on toast. But it doesn't matter. But I always try and choose something that'll hit the spot because if you eat the wrong thing, it'll sit there like a brick for a bit and give you
Mhm.
acid reflux. And a lot of people are fine. I don't know you guys find that at the moment. And I think it's because our bodies, the ascension symptoms, our bodies are upgrading, bit by bit. So it's been an interesting thing.
That is very
It is
interesting.
so.
Yeah. And I do find that. I find that seems more and more there's less and less that I can eat that agrees with
It's
my body,
true.
right? It really is because I'll eat something I'm like, I used to eat that and love that. Apparently that's on the you're not having that anymore list.
Yeah, that's on the acid reflux list.
Right.
But I think what I'm finding as well is a lot of people, because of the emotion, and we all ingest emotion, and we're semi-human, but I think as a starseed person, you're a complete empath, and you guys are as well. And so you ingest. I remember when I was younger, about a week ago, okay, 2 weeks ago. But when I was younger in my 20s, if people talk behind my back, I was mortified. Like, how can you do that, And, almost to the point of throwing up. I felt ill, with it. Now, I think what's happened is they couldn't give a shitometer blew up. And so, couldn't care, and it's not that I couldn't give a shit about people. I think it's because I've learned to not worry about what people think of you. I
Mhm.
think when you get into a place and you know you're a good person, you're doing your best, am I perfect? Let me ask him. No. So I'm not perfect, but you do your best to navigate this world. I think when you know you're a good person, you're doing your best. If someone starts to criticize you, bless your heart. Your perception of me is not my deal. That's yours, and you kind of again boundaries. You kind of block it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting.
Very interesting.
Very.
Well, can you tell I know you did say it once, but can you tell everybody where they can find you, where they can find your book?
Yeah, yeah. The books are actually in the ministry market. So if you go to globalenlightenmentproject.com, I've written six, well, I've put the information out for 6 books. Did I write them? Let's just pretend I did. But yeah, go to globalenlightenmentproject.com. All the healings are there. You get one-to-ones, you get specialized groups where there's up to 20 people. I speak to everyone, do the healing after. And then we've got the general group where it's really, it's run as a podcast thing where everyone comes on and of course it's on StreamYard, filtering out to
Mm.
all the channels. And yeah, there's a load of meditations there to help things like ADD, ADHD, working on the brain, neurochemical balance and things like that. There's a lot there, so yeah, go and have a look. If you need help, I mean, I can really help people release emotion quickly and get back to that sovereign being that you are. That's what I
Yeah.
encourage everyone to
Very
do.
That's wonderful.
beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, if you had a final thought to leave with everybody, what would it be?
Find that burning passion and surrender to it, and take that leap of faith to change your life because we're only here for a blip. And I wouldn't want anyone to waste their life thinking, I hate my job, or I hear it every day. And, I'd encourage you to take that leap of faith because I did, and look where I am. It took a few years. It's a bit of a journey, but money doesn't mean anything. It's just energy, life and passion, I think, is it, and gratitude. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a perfect message.
Absolutely.
We like that one.
Yay, pleasure.
Yes, perfect message. So, thank you so much for being with us today. We really
Oh, thanks for both.
appreciate
Bless your heart.
sharing space with you, and we'd love to have you back some other time. Maybe you can come on and do healing for some people or something. Can we
Yeah.
do
Yeah, we
That'd be
that?
could do
great.
that actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
because you can talk about this stuff, but to me, talk is cheap. the proof of the pudding is let's do it. Let's do it, you know.
Hey, yes,
So
sounds
bless your heart.
wonderful. Well, thank you
Okay.
so much again. And
Oh, thanks, Kim. Thanks, Bob. Bless your heart. Thank you for having me. It's
Yeah.
been an
yes,
absolute
That,
joy. Bless your heart.
yes, us as
thank you.
well.
Thank
And
you.
everybody else, we will see you the next time.
You bet.